Authentication and authorization, the two words that sound almost identical, get used interchangeably all the time, and they are not the same thing. One decides who you are, and the other decides what you are allowed to do. Mix them up, and you get the security bug. Let's make the difference stick. In 5 minutes, the easiest way to feel the difference: a hotel. When you check in, the front desk verifies your identity, your ID, your booking. That's authentication. It answers one question: who you are. Once you are verified, you get a room key. Now, watch what the key does. It opens your room, green, the gym, green, but the penthouse, denied. Same key, same verified guest. The key only unlocks what you are allowed to access. That's authorization. Notice the order. First, they prove who you are, then the key decides what you can reach. Getting into the building is not the same as being allowed everywhere inside it. Let's zoom into authentication, proving you are who you claim to be. You hand over credentials, classically a username and password. Those go to an identity provider, which checks them, and if they're valid, issues a verified token that says, yes, this is really them. But a password alone is weak, so we stack proof it. Multi-factor, something you know, your password, something you have, a one-time code, something you are, your fingerprint. Each factor makes you harder to impersonate. And when authentication fails, wrong password, expired token, no credentials at all, the server says 401, unauthorized. Remember that number. 401 means I don't know who you are. It's about identity and identity alone. Now, authorization. You're verified. The system knows who you are. The authorization decides what you are allowed to do. This is where roles and permissions live. Picture a permission matrix. An admin can read, write, and delete. An editor can read and write, but not delete. A viewer can only read. Same action, different permission based on your role. In practice, every request carries your token to the server. The server reads the token, checks your scope, and decides allowed or not. Reading a document, granted. 200, okay. Deleting it as a viewer, denied. 403, forbidden. And that's the number here, 403. The server knows exactly who you are. It just knows you are not allowed to do this. 401 is who are you. 403 is I know who you are and no. Side by side, authentication asks, who are you? Authorization asks, what can you do? Authentication always happens first. You can't decide someone's permission until you know who they are. Authorization happens second, on top. Authentication fails with a 401. Authorization fails with 403. In real world, authentication is your login and MFA. Authorization is your roles and permissions. Two different jobs in a fixed order. Here's how it fits together in one request. You log in, that's authentication. The server issues a token. From now on, every API call carries that token. At each protected endpoint, the server runs a permission check, authorization, before it responds. One identity established once, permission checked every single time. That's the pattern behind almost every app you use. You have done this 100 times. Ever clicked sign in with Google? Watch what actually happens. When you click it, Google checks who you are. That's authentication. You're verified, you logged in, but a second screen appears. Task app wants to see your profile and access your Drive files. Allow? That's a completely different question. Google already knows who you are. Now, you are authorizing an app to act on your behalf with a specific permissions called scopes. Click allow and the app gets a token that can do exactly those things and nothing more. So one button, both jobs, back to back. Authentication proved it's you. Authorization grants that app limited access. Logging in is not the same thing as handing over the keys. Quick test: 401 or 403. 1. A request arrives with a no token at all. That's a 401. we don't even know who you are. 2. Unlocked in, viewer clicks delete. We know exactly who you are, they're just not allowed. That's 403. 3. The token is valid but expired. Back to square one. 401. Got them right? Then you got it. 401 is who you are, 403 is you can't do that. So, the one liner to remember: authentication is your ID at the door, authorization is what your keys unlocks. Get those two straight, and a huge amount of security suddenly makes sense. If this helped, subscribe. Next up, Docker explained in one shot.